Good afternoon, everyone. Respected Chairman, Board of Governors, Shri Krishna Kulkarni, Director, Professor Alok Kumar Rai, Chief Guest, Swami Sarvapriyananda, faculty colleagues, students, and ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Management Center for Human Values, Indian Institute of Management, Calcutta, I extend my warmest welcome to each one of you to this seminar on self-knowledge and freedom. We are deeply honored to have amongst us Swami Sarvapriyananda, a renowned monk of the Ramakrishna Order and the minister in charge of the Vedanta Society of New York. Your presence today, Swamiji, is an immense privilege for us in IIM Calcutta. I now request Swami Sarvapriyananda and our Director, Professor Alok Kumar Rai, to kindly come forward and inaugurate today's session by lighting the ceremonial lamp symbolizing the illumination of knowledge and wisdom. May I now request our director to felicitate our esteemed guest with a flower bouquet. I will now request director to felicitate with a stone. Thank you. It is indeed a profound honor to gather today for an event that truly exemplifies the spirit and the mission of the Indian Institute of Management, Calcutta. Today, we turn our gaze inward, reflecting on the foundational principles of human existence, consciousness, and freedom. We are privileged to welcome a guest whose clarity, scholarship, and contemporary relevance have illuminated the path of Vedanta for countless people around the world. Swami Sarvapriyananda, revered monk of the Ramakrishna Order, Swamiji, we welcome you wholeheartedly to our campus. His address today, Self-Knowledge and Freedom, goes right to the heart of the timeless human quest, the recognition of our true nature as a source of enduring liberty. The topic of self-knowledge is not incidental to this campus. It is the very anchor of the institution's philosophical contribution to management education. For decades, the Management Center for Human Values at IIM Calcutta, has championed the integration of India's spiritual heritage with the principles of leadership and professional life. The Centre's vision is a direct legacy of its founder, the late Professor Shitanshu Kumar Chakraborty. Professor Chakraborty was a pioneer, a scholar who shifted from teaching finance and accounting to become an acharya of human values and Indian ethos in management. Professor Chakraborty felt that something must be done urgently to Indianize Indian management and place it firmly on the solid foundation of Indian culture. With this inspiration in heart, he published a paper on business management and mysticism in 1982 in Prabuddha Bharat, the famous monthly journal of Advaita Ashram Mayavati Ramakrishna Mission. In 1983, he launched the first postgraduate program on Indian ethos at the Indian Institute of Management, Calcutta, as well as initiated the first industry program. He recognized that the challenges faced by modern organizations, be they ethical failures, leadership crises, or organizational discord, stem primarily from a lack of inner self-management. His mission championed the foundation of the Vedantic heritage. He found that the theories of Western behavioral sciences are not enough to explain the intricate organizational behavior, particularly as the model of man employed in these theories seemed to be highly inadequate. Professor Chakraborty brought some of the basic concepts of Indian philosophy, like that of higher self as named by Sri Aurobindo, or real self as designated by Swami Vivekananda, guna dynamics of Shankar-darshan, karma common in all forms of Indian philosophies, into the professional management literature. Thus, he was trying to connect Indian management to its deep cultural roots. Instead of focusing solely on external performance, metrics and skills, Professor Chakraborty insisted that the ultimate test of effective management lay in the subjective cultivation and purification of the individual's inner domain, or chitta suddhi. This inner development, he argued, is the true sense of excellence. He urged leaders to move beyond mere compliance or cognitive ethics and aspire to consciousness ethics, a state where action is naturally and effortlessly virtuous because it springs from a tranquil, enlightened consciousness. This is the path of the Rajashri leader, the king who is also the sage, who leads society's material concerns only after achieving mastery over the self. MCHV exists to demonstrate that consciousness and values are not obstacles to excellence. They are the absolute prerequisites for holistic and sustainable effectiveness in the professional world. We are also deeply grateful to our director, IIM Calcutta, Professor Alok Kumar Rai, whose encouragement continues to inspire MCHV's efforts to bring humanistic and value-based dimensions into management education. It is now my privilege to invite our director to introduce Swami Sarvapriyananda.
Share curiosity and desire for deeper understanding. I, on behalf of Indian Institute of Management, Calcutta, and also on my personal behalf, welcome you all to this very inspiring seminar on spiritual exploration being organized by Management Center for Human Values. As you all know, MCHV enshrines more than 2 decades of aspiration and efforts to hold up to the members of human organization and institution with contemporary adaptations from the perennial corpus of Indian psycho-philosophical wisdom and embodies the Vedantic ethics from the Indian deep structure, thereby bridging a vital gap between the Protestant ethic from the far west and the Confucian ethics from the far east. In a world filled with distractions, we often seek moments of clarity and spiritual connection. Today, MCHV has placed another opportunity before us where we have the privilege of listening to a remarkable speaker who embodies wisdom and insight. His journey through the realms of spirituality has illuminated many paths and I believe will resonate deeply with all of us. Please join me in extending a warm and respectful welcome to our revered speaker of today, Swami Sarvapriyananda Maharaj. with a round of applause. His presence reminds us that true education is not only about the intellect, but also about awakening the spirit within. Swami Sarvapriyananda Maharaj is a renowned monk of Ramakrishna order and of course minister in charge as was shared. Please mute all the persons. He holds academic degrees in economics and education along with an MBA from Xavier Institute of Management, Bhubaneswar. Before moving to New York, Swamiji served in several key positions within Ramakrishna Mission, including Vice Principal of Devgar Vidyapeeth, Principal of Shiksha Mandir and Acharya at Velur Math. He was also a Negral Fellow at the Harvard Divinity School, where he engaged in interfaith and philosophical dialogues on global platforms. Swamiji has delivered lectures and retreats across India and abroad at institutions such as Harvard, MIT, Google, and even United Nations, sharing the timeless wisdom of Advaita Vedanta with remarkable clarity, depth, and simplicity, of course. Recognized worldwide as one of the most articulate voices of Vedanta today, he has inspired countless individuals to seek balance between inner awareness and outer action, between spirituality and our daily life. Swamiji is also regarded as a profound and contemporary interpreter of Advaita Vedanta, making the timeless wisdom of the Upanishads accessible to modern minds across the world. We are truly blessed to have Swamiji amongst us. His words will illuminate how spiritual insight can lead to genuine freedom, not only for individuals, but for society at large. The theme of today's seminar, self-knowledge and freedom, touches the very essence of human life. In a world where we are constantly striving for progress and success, it is easy to forget the inward journey, the path that leads to self-understanding and truth and freedom. The Bhagavad Gita offers timeless guidance on the subject. In chapter 6, verse 5, Lord Krishna says, Uddharena Atmanatmanam Natmananam Avasadayi Atmavayam Yagunu Bandhur Atman Ripur Atman. Let a person lift oneself by one's own mind and not degrade oneself. For the self alone is the friend of the self, and the self alone is the enemy of the self. This profound teaching reminds us that true freedom is an inner state, achieved when the mind becomes our ally rather than our adversary. Self-knowledge, therefore, is the key to mastering the mind, rising above ignorance and attaining peace and freedom. In the sphere of management and leadership, this truth is equally vital. Leaders who know themselves, their values, emotions, and purpose are free from fear, ego, and confusion. Such self-awareness fosters ethical action, compassion, and strength of character, qualities that are indispensable in today's complex and competitive world, and in a world filled with speed, competition, and constant change. It is easy to lose touch with our inner selves. After all, the ability to understand one's thoughts, emotions, motives, and values determine how a leader makes decisions, manages team, and responds to challenges. Yet, as Swami Vivekananda so eloquently said, the moment I realize God sitting in the temple of every human body, the moment I stand in reverence before every human being and see God in him, that moment I am free. This profound message beautifully captures the essence of today's discussion, that true freedom arises from self-knowledge. When we understand who we truly are, beyond our roles, titles, and possessions, we experience an inner liberation that transcends all external circumstances. Once again, I warmly welcome Swamiji and to everyone gathered here. I encourage you to listen to him with openness and of course introspection to reflect and to engage deeply with today's discourse. May this session inspire us to walk the path of awareness, harmony and self-mastery with awareness, compassion and purpose. Thank you very much, Swamiji, and thank you to all of you. Om Shanti.
Now request our chief guest, Swami Sarvapriyananda, to please deliver his talk.
Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityurma Amritam Gamaya Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om. Lead us from the unreal to the real. Lead us from darkness unto light. Lead us from death to immortality. Om. Peace, peace, peace. Namaste and good afternoon, everybody. Respected Director, Professor Alok Kumar Rai-ji, Chairman of the Board, Sri Krishna Kulkarni-ji, Professor Bodhi Pratana, Professor Ranga, Professor Shekhar Chaudhary is here, other members of the faculty, students, staff members, guests. It's a pleasure for me to be back here. I've been here a few times. I remember the first time I came here, I was an MBA student. That was in 1992. I had come from XIM, and there was this, they used to have, I don't know, this MBA, the Management Institute cultural festival kind of thing. I think it still goes on probably, I'm not too sure, it's still there. So I come here for that. So what happened? I think there's a Zoom meeting, you have to switch off the... Yes, you have to mute everybody. Right. Otherwise, once in a while we'll have that Akashvani coming in. And after that also I have had the occasion to visit a few times. Here itself at the MCHV during Shitangshu Babu's time, then later on S.K. Chakravarti was there, and I heard a beautiful talk here, I still remember, very memorable, by the eminent philosopher, Professor Arindam Chakravarti, here itself, on the concept of fun, maja. That was many years ago. I don't think I've been back here for the last 15 years or so. So it's a privilege for me. I'm very happy to be back here amongst all of you. The subject this afternoon is a subject that is very close to my heart. It's basically spirituality, but spirituality of a special kind. Something that would be acceptable to those who hold on to high standards of rationality and rigor. So a kind of spirituality which satisfies the demands of reason, which has answers to the most pressing questions which we can put in this day and age. What is spirituality and what can it do and what can it not do? We have no better authority than Bhagavan Buddha. So there is a very interesting story. Bhagavan Buddha was asked, and this comes from the original Pali sources, not from WhatsApp University. So it seems a Buddhist bhikshu asks Bhagavan Buddha, I have a question. What is your question? You taught us that life is suffering, and suffering is, old age is suffering, disease is suffering, death is suffering. And this goes back to the Prince Siddhartha, who saw the different sights. And so what is your question? And you taught us that there is a freedom from suffering. And if we are following your teachings, we're trying to go beyond suffering. So alright, what is your question? The question is, but we are getting old. We are following your teachings, but we are all getting old. We also fall ill sometimes. And some of us have died, and I guess all of us are going to die. And you, Bhagavan Buddha, Tathagata, you are also getting old. You also fall sick sometimes. And I guess, unfortunately, one day you will die. So how did you overcome suffering? You see, if suffering is old age, if suffering is disease, if death is suffering, and you claim you have gone beyond suffering, and yet you are still getting old, you will get sick, and you are going to die one day. So how did you go beyond suffering? Then Bhagavan Buddha answers, and here is the precise answer to the question, what does spirituality do actually, at its most genuine core? He says, suffering is like a man, imagine a man hit by two arrows, one arrow and then another arrow. Am I audible to everybody? It's clear? Imagine that person suffering. The first arrow is what the world throws at you. The second arrow is our reaction to that. And most of our suffering is actually due to that second arrow, our reaction to what is happening to us in life. What I am teaching you will take care of that second arrow. It will remove the suffering of that second arrow. What happens in the world, how life goes on, first arrow, that I cannot do anything about. So this is at the heart of spirituality. See, it is our reaction to life that really causes suffering. I often say those who are doctors, they know this very well. They deal with hundreds, thousands of people, patients throughout their career. Every day they are dealing with so many patients. And they all know, doctors know from their experience, there are patients with life-threatening conditions, with serious illnesses, and who react with calmness, with dignity, with forbearance. There are patients who have relatively minor ailments and minor conditions, and they react, they break down, they fall apart. Now the question is, who is suffering more? Who is suffering more? The one who is calm and collected and composed, or the one who is just breaking down, a nervous breakdown? Clearly, the one who is, responding in such a disproportionate manner, suffering much more. Although the actual thing, the first arrow, in the case of this person has a minor problem maybe. Another person has a much more serious problem, but the suffering is caused internally by our reaction. I remember many years ago in Calcutta, I attended a medical conference. And the reason was, the conference was on pain management of acute pain. In one of the sessions, medical conferences, how they have multiple sessions going on, hundreds of people. One of the sessions was on talk therapies. So I was part of that. And a doctor came and drew a chart in front of us, concentric circles, 3 circles. Innermost circle, he said actual pain, actual physical pain which is registered. And he said 20%. In between, another circle, and outward another circle. So he says the actual pain which is registered, that is about 20% of the total suffering. More of the suffering is caused by our anxiety. That pain is coming, discomfort is coming, I become tense and I worry about it. And the larger circle is all the social issues and professional issues, career issues, which come up, if we have chronic pain. So he says 80% of our suffering is not due to the actual physical pain. 80% is our reaction to it, our anxiety, our fear, our uneasiness regarding that pain. And he says that 20% actual pain, that's what we target with painkillers. And those painkillers also work and don't work. They sort of work, and they also have their own side effects. So it really makes sense to deal with this pain, this suffering at a psychological level, at a philosophical level, maybe. So the Buddha is right. The second arrow is the cause of most of our suffering. And what spirituality does, it takes care of, it deals directly with that 80% of our suffering, which is caused by our reaction to what is happening to us. And that's where spirituality claims we can go beyond suffering. The subject, self-knowledge or self-inquiry, and freedom. But you might ask, freedom in what sense? In 2 senses. One is freedom from suffering. Freedom from and freedom to. So freedom from suffering and freedom to live a much more fulfilled and elevated life. In Sanskrit there is a term Jivan Mukti, free while living. So, freedom from suffering and freedom to live a life of fulfillment. There is a very interesting incident. Sri Ramakrishna, he was passing away he was in terminal cancer, throat cancer. He was dying from that. This is 1886. And one of his disciples, a young man, Hari, he comes and asks him, "Sir, how are you today? Aaj kemon achen?" And Sri Ramakrishna says, "It hurts. I can't eat. Ekhane koshto hocche, khete parchi na." And then that young man, I don't know what he saw, but he says, "But sir, I see that you are in great bliss. Apni mahanande achen." How you can say that to a cancer patient is. But Sri Ramakrishna's reply is even more surprising. He says, in Bengali I will translate, he says, "O shala dhore niyeche, the rascal has found me out." Which means, how paradoxical it is. He's not denying that the pain is there. He's not denying that the tumor is there. It's not escapism. What is exactly the case in the world will continue to be. Life will continue exactly like that. As Buddha said, the first arrow. But at the same time, Sri Ramakrishna confirms, he's in bliss. Maha Anande ache, he says, I am in bliss. In the Bhagavad Gita also you find, Sri Krishna says, what does spirituality do? He says, Yasmin sthito dukkhena guruna api na vichalyate. Centered in which even the heaviest of sorrows cannot shake us. Now immediately you see two things. One is, heaviest of sorrows cannot shake us. That means if you are spiritual, it does not mean that sorrows will stop. It does not mean that the arrows from the world will stop coming. As long as you are embodied, the body is there, you are in the world, things will happen. Old age, disease, even death will come. So, the sorrows will keep coming. He says, heaviest of sorrows. On the other hand, he makes the claim, the proposal, that if you are centered in which? In the spiritual life, in the spiritual reality which we will talk about, if we are centered in that, the heaviest of sorrows cannot shake us. Like Sri Ramakrishna, that Mahanande ache, I am in great bliss. The same Hari, later on, he wants to ask a little more. How is it possible that you are suffering and yet you are in great bliss? So he asks a more probing question to Sri Ramakrishna. Remember, throat cancer. So he asks, Apnar eshab anubhav hai? Do you experience, do you actually feel the pain? Because what is going on in your throat, do you actually feel it or not? Because who knows, he's a spiritual man, maybe he does not feel it, spiritual anesthesia, something. And Sri Ramakrishna's answer was, what kind of a question is that? What kind of talk is that in Bengali? O tomar ki kotha go? What kind of talk is that? And then he says, Shorir ki sadhu hai, moni sadhu hai. Does the body ever become spiritual? It's the mind which becomes spiritual. See, he's precisely locating what spirituality does. You see the congruence with 2500 years ago what Bhagavan Buddha said, the two arrows. And Sri Ramakrishna's answer, that it matches. It's not that the body, the world will be suddenly transformed because you are spiritual, but your mind will be transformed. So this making the mind spiritual, mon ke sadhu kara, this is the central objective of spiritual life. Look around you, this Management Center for Human Values, is Swami Vivekananda, Mahatma Gandhi, Rishi Aurobindo, and Rabindranath Tagore. Little aside, I can't resist, humorous aside. I remember in our Belur Vidyamandir College, a professor of literature had come, Bengali literature, from Bangladesh. And he said, stop calling him Rabindranath Tagore, stop calling him Rabindranath Tagore, Ravi Thakur, say Rabindranath Thakur. Otherwise, he said, remember this is Belur Math. He says, I will start calling Ramakrishna Tagore, Ramakrishna Thakur. So, and as a segue to that, what is happening now in the age of, this was long ago, but it's in the age of Google and YouTube, I see sometimes in the talks given by me and other Ramakrishna Mission monks, Many people write out of effusion of devotion in Bengali, Joy Thakur, and Google immediately translates victory to Tagore. Yeah, you will see, you can check. I have checked. So victory to Tagore. All of them, they have this basis in spiritual life. Swamiji, Mahatma Gandhi, Rishi Aurobindo, and Rabindranath Tagore. And this institute was founded on that basis, that what can we take from the ethos represented by these great luminaries of modern India and actualize it in our lives, but our personal lives, professional lives, community lives, institutional lives. How can we infuse? That was the idea. Shitanshu Babu had, S.K. Chakraborty, he had that same idea also. How can we infuse it into our management education? By the way, one of your very noted alumni, Vinayak Lohani, is also a very good friend of mine. So, very distinguished person and tremendous achievement. I've been following what he, almost the very beginning, more than 20 years ago. So, spiritualization, mon ke sadhu kara. Now, there are different ways of doing this spiritualization. There are different well-known avenues of spirituality. One of the most well-known, okay, let me tell you, back up a little and let me tell you what I'm doing here. I'm going to narrow down on one particular way of being spiritual, which I said at the very beginning, something that can answer to our calls for logic and rationality and rigor in this day and age. So to do that, I will approach it, I'll just sort of outline the other paths, but I'm not criticizing any approach to spirituality. Today I'm an advocate for one approach to spirituality, so I'm going to, but that does not mean that I am disparaging any approach. On the contrary, I know, like Sri Ramakrishna taught, Jato Mat Tato Pad, so every path. So one of the approaches, very well-known approaches to spirituality is devotional approach. So if you go to church, temple, mosque, the theistic religions of the world, in Christianity, Islam, Judaism, Zoroastrianism, or many forms of Hinduism, Shaivism, Shaktaism. Sri Ramakrishna also was a bhakta, so devotee. What is that approach? That there is a supreme power. There is God, Ishwar, Allah in some form. And our approach is based on faith. In fact, in America, religion is called faith. Religion and faith are seen as interchangeable. Reason being the Abrahamic religious background of the West. So the only kind of religion they are used to is, Christianity or Judaism and later on Islam, which is a devotional religion, faith-based religion. And that's perfectly alright, but that's one form of religion. But the problem with that is that one may disbelieve. One may not believe in God. One may say, I am an agnostic or an outright atheist. Or one may believe differently. I believe in God, but not in the way you believe. I believe in my religion, my way of understanding of God. So this is the problem with the devotional faith-based approach, because faith can be challenged. And this is the age of the great new atheists, Christopher Hitchens and Daniel Dennett and Richard Dawkins and Sam Harris. So you will immediately be attacked by the atheists. You say you cannot prove you cannot ground it on reason and evidence and logic. Very difficult. Because it is a faith-based approach. In fact, in the West, they have a big problem with religion like Buddhism, because it's confounding. How can you have religion without God? I was in the Vatican just 1 week ago. There was an interfaith conference, and a professor in the Gregorian University there in Rome, in Vatican, he was saying, Buddhism after all is not really a religion. And I was sitting there looking at, there was a candidate, there's a delegate from Cambodia, a Buddhist monk. I was looking at him like this, not really a religion. Why? Because how can you have a religion without God? But in India we know, it's possible. You can have a religion which is agnostic about God, but still it is a spiritual path. We have Buddhism, we have Jainism, we have Sankhya in Hinduism. These are all non-theistic, but spiritual. The second way of being spiritual is what one might call the experience-based approach, the mystical approach, the approach Vivekananda. How did Narendranath Datta become Vivekananda? He goes around 19th century, late 19th century Calcutta, asking great religious teachers, have you seen God? Not, does God exist? Do you believe in God? What is the proof of God? No. Have you seen God? An empirical question for an empirical age. And of course he was very satisfied when he found Sri Ramakrishna, who said, I have seen God the way I am seeing you, more clearly than that, and you too can see God. So this is what he would speak about in the United States. He would say, if God exists, I should be able to see God. If I have an immortal soul, I should be able to feel it. So this is an empirical answer. What is this answer? An example would be Patanjali Yoga Sutras, where it is not said that you have to believe in God. It's not said that you have to have faith in God. No. You have to sit in this way, asana. You have to breathe in this way, pranayama. You have to turn your attention inwards and then focus, dharana, dhyana, samadhi. And in these advanced meditative states, the claim is that you will actually experience in a sort of quote-unquote empirical, not with your senses, but definitely with the direct experience of the divine. And this is nothing new. It was something understood in India since ancient times till today. So many mystics, so many enlightened beings have come, men and women, across the ages, across different spiritual traditions, throughout the history of India. So the divine, the spiritual reality, call it God, Brahman, Atman, whatever you call it, the Buddha nature, it can be experienced and it should be experienced. But here also, for the sake of playing the devil's advocate, because I am going to make a case for something else. One may say, you think you are experiencing it, we don't doubt it, but it is actually a tumor in your brain, and it is pressing on certain neurons and giving you the feeling that you are experiencing light or oneness with the universe or God or something like that. It is a neurological condition. In fact, if you search the most popular TED Talks today, there's one lady, she is a neuroscientist, she had a stroke and she felt a mystical experience. But since she's trained as a neurologist, she understood what was going on. And she has written a book also afterwards. So that means one can say that you may feel you are realizing God, you may feel that you are experiencing something extraordinary, but it's just being generated by your brain. You need not go so far also. You can see the mystics, those who have had extraordinary spiritual experiences, those who claim, I have seen God. What was the public's reaction? How did people react to such people? Throughout history, in every civilization, the first reaction was, you are mad. Even Sri Ramakrishna was considered mad Brahmin priest of Dakshineshwar. Why? Because it's not a common experience, it's not a public experience. That the light is shining in the well of this house, we all agree, we can agree because we all see it. We see it there. But if somebody says, I see a divine form appearing before us, you may be inspired, but you don't see it, you can doubt it. I think it was Hume who said, extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. So, one may doubt this mystical path. And in New York, 2 years ago, they legalized marijuana. So many people are having mystical experiences, especially after 5:30 in the evening, you go to Central Park, many are in a high spiritual state. Now, you can doubt that is it really spiritual or is it what are you high on? So, genuine spiritual experiences are there, no doubt, in every spiritual tradition. But again, these are rare. Now, compared to that, come to what we are going to talk about in the next few minutes. The path of self-knowledge, self-inquiry, which in India, in contrast to the bhakti path, in contrast to the yogic path, this is called the jnana path, the path of knowledge, self-knowledge, inquiry into ourselves. Sri Ramakrishna would tell the story of Dhopa, the washerman. You have to imagine the traditional Indian washerman, who found a big diamond, but he didn't know what the diamond is. He was a poor, uneducated man. And he thought it's a stone, a peculiar stone, and he used it to scrub dirty laundry waste. But luckily, he was curious about it. It's a stone, but it's a very strange stone. So he goes to his friend, the vegetable seller, and asks him, do you know anything about this? The vegetable seller also was not much more educated. So he says, it's a pretty stone, I will give you 10 rupees for it. Please give it to me. Luckily he didn't sell it. And I say that we are being constantly confronted by vegetable sellers. We are like that dhopa, the washerman. We have the diamond. I'm talking about our own consciousness, our own state of awareness. What it is we don't know, and we are using it all the time. We are seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, enjoying life, suffering, fighting, loving, all of that, studying, working, playing, all of that is possible because of one thing, consciousness. But what is the nature of that consciousness? Sri Ramakrishna says it's like having a diamond without knowing it. And the path of knowledge is to be introduced to this diamond, which you already have, which everybody has. And all you need for this path of knowledge, you don't have to believe. In fact, you should not believe. This is a path of knowledge, you must inquire. You don't even need extraordinary experiences. For this path of knowledge to start, our ordinary day-to-day quotidian experiences are enough. That you see, that we hear, that we are talking, we are thinking, we are awake, we fall asleep and dream. These experiences are all that is necessary. The Vedantic inquiries, Drig Drishya Viveka, the Pancha Kosha Viveka, the Avasthatraya Vichara, all of them, they are based on waking, dreaming, sleeping. They are based on, you are the subject and this is the object. You are based on the body and the prana and the mind. So, what is already available to all of us, without any sadhana, without any practice, it's automatically, we have already got the diamond. Now, the approach in this path is, our problem is ignorance about that diamond. Ignorance about our real nature. And the solution to ignorance is always knowledge. Solution to ignorance is not faith. Solution to ignorance is knowledge. How do you get knowledge? Any knowledge. And today kids will say, you ask ChatGPT. That's how you get knowledge. Somebody said, we are running into an age of obsolescence of education. Only one subject has to be taught to children. Prompt engineering. How to prompt the ChatGPT, the AI, and AI will teach everything else to the child. So this is what is coming in the future. So inquiry into our own real nature. Ultimately the dhopa, the washerman, he goes to a diamond merchant. And the diamond merchant says, I have never seen a more magnificent, raw, uncut diamond in my life. You give it to me for 10 crore rupees. And all the poverty of that dhopa, the washerman, was removed when he sold that diamond for its real value. Similarly, we don't even have to sell this diamond. We have to just recognize what we already have. And that's the claim. If you truly recognize, if you truly know who you are, what you are, your problems are at an end, at an existential level. Then the promise, freedom from suffering and freedom to live a fulfilled life will be ours. So this is the architecture of the talk, the inner logic, the DNA of the talk, what I am going to give now. And I am going to, next few minutes, I will outline it, and then we will go in for question answers. So, this was the question. Most ancient times, thousands of years ago, about the nature of consciousness. There is this diamond, which we already have. In Keno Upanishad, see, I was reading Professor Evan Thompson. There's a book, he teaches philosophy at the University of British Columbia in Vancouver. There's a book, Waking, Dreaming, Being. In that book, he says, consciousness studies is not a new subject. It started in ancient India on the Indo-Gangetic plains in the texts called the Upanishads. I was just looking around at Swamiji, Gandhiji, Aurobindo and Ravi Thakur, is what they have in common are the Upanishads. Ravi Thakur is touring Europe after Gitanjali became famous, after the First World War. And there were people in Europe, in England, who told him that we are grateful to you for your work because it has given us solace in the time of loss and war. And he was at first, he felt wonderful that my poetry, is there power in my poetry which can, across the seas, an entirely different culture, people are being benefited, getting solace. And then he says, but then I realized the source of my poetry is the Upanishads. Of course, there is life-giving force there. That's why across the world, no matter which culture you come from, you recognize it's about you. It's your story. It's about the diamond within all of us. All of them, they derive their spiritual wisdom from the Upanishads. Evan Thompson says these texts are the beginning of what we call our consciousness studies. Today consciousness studies is booming. You go back to the Upanishads. In the Kena Upanishad, it starts with a student asking a question about consciousness, which we are still asking today. Keneshitam padati preshitam mana kena prana pratama praiti yuktaha keneshitam vachanimam vadanti chakshu shrotram kaudeva yunakti. She says, sir, by what light, illumined by what light am I able to experience these thoughts? Instigated by what? Inspired by what are these words coming out? How do I have the experience of seeing? How do I have the experience of hearing? Kaudeva yunakti. Which shining being is calling consciousness? That's one shining light. Now remember, the question is very sophisticated. The question, Professor Arindam Chakravarti, who spoke here 20 years ago, he told me, Swami, stay with the question. These Upanishads, they start with the most profound questions of human life. All those thousands of years ago. And today also we are still asking these questions. Because Vivekananda said that each generation has to ask these questions for themselves. In their own language, in the modern language, in the modern context. And it is not that the answers were not found. The answers were found. In the Upanishads there are the answers. But the answers are, as the centuries roll down, Vivekananda says, as the centuries roll down, the answers gather strength. What I mean is, the same answers which you find in the Upanishads, hundreds of years later in the age of philosophy, in the age of the sutras, great philosophical debate between Hinduism and Buddhism, the same answers got additional, support from logic, from debate, philosophical status. Today, the same answers have to answer questions in consciousness studies, in neuroscience, answers questions from quantum theory, and we will get a much richer perspective. I am beginning to see this in my interactions with others. Same answers, but in a much richer, wider, is a gathering strength as the centuries roll down. Notice the question is sophisticated. If you ask, how do I see? One answer could be, ophthalmology department is there, go and ask. They will tell you. Shelves of books are written on how the eyes function. But no, it's not a question about physiology of the eyes or of the ears. You're saying that one light, there's one thing which gives us the experience of seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, thinking, remembering, enjoying, suffering, speaking, working. So what he's basically asking is all our conscious life, our entire spectrum of our life is lit up. The student is asking, lit up by one reality, this consciousness. What is that consciousness? He's asking this question. And so many thousands of years ago. And he has this intuition that if you realize what this consciousness is, it will solve your problems. Like the washerman, all your needs will be met if you understand that this is this diamond. So what is the nature of this consciousness? And this is the question we are asking today. If you Google it, one of the hot subjects in science today, generally across science, is consciousness, the nature of consciousness. The David Chalmers, who is at NYU, he came up with this term which is very popular across the world. If you Google it, you will find the hard problem of consciousness. That we are, in spite of our best efforts, we are unable to reduce this consciousness to the brain. Our mainstream answer, what is the mainstream answer? What we generally ask, children of this age, we know. If we talk about consciousness, we have this basic intuition, oh, it's the brain. Respiration, it's the lungs. Blood circulation, it's the heart. Consciousness is the brain. But no, this is the problem. Those who are studying this, they have hit a major roadblock. The roadblock is called the hard problem of consciousness. If you Google on YouTube, just Google not right now, 325 theories. Just Google 325 theories. There's one, Robert Lawrence Kuhn, who runs this very popular podcast called Closer to Truth. And he's interviewed the leading scientists, physicists, biologists, chemists across the world, information scientists, philosophers. And one of the themes is, what is consciousness? And then he has made a taxonomy of the different answers. There are many answers, there is no one answer. He has made a taxonomy of the different answers. And he says there are more or less 325 theories to the question, what is consciousness? And that's today. Thousands of years ago, that student asked, what is consciousness? 325 theories he has identified. And of course, he says, at the beginning, there's an interview, you'll find, 3-hour long interview. It gives an outline of these 325 theories. He says, one of the most sophisticated is also one of the most ancient, and that is the Advaita Vedanta of India. The Vedantic theory of consciousness. Now he says there, 325 theories means what? It simply means we don't know. In science, if you are coming close to the answer, you will have one or two competing theories. And when you settle on one theory, even provisionally, then you say, we know, we have a scientific answer. It can go into the textbooks now. You may revise it later, but one theory. If you have 325 theories, it's admission, we have no idea at all what we are talking about. So, he says there, whatever your theory of consciousness, this much is sure, the most important questions in life, the answers depend on that theory. What happens after death? If you say, if your theory is a materialist reductionist theory, that consciousness is born of the brain, then what happens after death? Nothing, finished. If your theory is that consciousness is an independent reality, functioning through the brain but not produced by the brain, then it means with the death, physical death, death of the brain, death of the body, your consciousness will continue. So every important question about life, what is value, about artificial intelligence and consciousness, all these important questions, they depend upon your theory of consciousness. It's a very, very important subject. And how little we know about it. As thousands of years ago, we are again asking, like that student of Kena Upanishad, what is that light by which I see, I think, I feel, I imagine? I was recently at a conference towards a new theory of consciousness in Venice. And they had some of the leading experts from different fields. Christoph Koch, who is a neuroscientist, leading neuroscientist in the world, he was there. David Chalmers, who coined the term hard problem of consciousness, he was there. One of the leading quantum theorists, Carlo Rovelli, he was there. Dr. Anil Seth from the University of Sussex, he was there. Philosophers, quantum computing, Google's quantum computing head, he was there. You know this Google AI Gemini, the head of research for Gemini, he was there. Now I asked a question, I was a monk, I was also there. I asked a question. Suppose it's a conference on, say, liver. Whom will you call for that conference? You will call only doctors and medical researchers, and that too people who are super specialized in that area or related areas. Will you call a philosopher to discuss about liver? No. The reason being, it's a well understood, more or less well understood field and a well defined specialty. You will call experts, PhDs, researchers in that field or related fields. You will not call an expert on Upanishadic philosophy or a Chinese philosophy to discuss the liver. Now if you say that brain is producing consciousness, why are you calling a philosopher, quantum theory expert, AI expert, you're calling a monk? Why? It is because we have a clear intuition that we don't really understand consciousness. Okay, so this is the background. Now, we'll dive into it for the next few minutes. I'll give you an essential insight, the key to opening the path of knowledge. So we have narrowed it down. Spirituality, what it is, path of way of faith, then way of mystical experience, now way of knowledge. Precisely, who am I, or specifically, what is consciousness? Now, what things, these are questions, but what are the answers? What can we get from these ancient traditions? First insight. We must understand that, we must see that we are actually not this body-mind. Our real nature is consciousness. This separation of true self from our not self. In Sanskrit, Atma, Anatma, self and not self. This separation, not a physical separation, intellectual separation. In our understanding, we must come to see what I am not and what I am really. But that investigation we generally do not do. So this separation between self and not self, Atma, Anatma, self and not self, this is the entry point. Last week I was giving a talk to philosophy students at Ashoka University, and the same Professor Sarvapriyananda Chakravarti I mentioned, he was there. And he introduced me by saying, this Swami is a follower of Swami Vivekananda, it is very strange that a great teacher of non-duality, oneness, his name, Vivekananda, Viveka means separation. So you're teaching oneness, but why does your name say Viveka means separate? In Sanskrit, Viveka means Vivich Prithak Karani, to separate things which are mixed up. Things are mixed up which we do not see the distinct, the separate nature, to separate them intellectually in our investigation, that is called Viveka. Sri Ramakrishna in his inimitable way, I'll tell you in Bengali, it's catchy in Bengali, then I'll translate. He says, Chinite balite mishe ache, pipre alada korte pare. Sand and sugar are mixed up, the ant can separate them. Dudhe jole mishe ache, hash alada korte pare. Apparently the swan can separate the water and drink the milk. It's a well-known myth, but it's a story. And the next part, can't translate into English, very difficult. Golmale mal ache, golti bad diye malti la. Now, that is Sri Ramakrishna's style. I don't know, in America I tried to translate, in the midst of chaos there is the truth, you leave the mess aside, take the truth. It doesn't have the punch of Golmale Malache. So this is that separation. That's the meaning of the word Viveka, to separate the real nature of the self. Who am I from what I am not? How will you do that? The claim is, I am pure consciousness, I am not the body, not the mind. The method is this. One of the central insights which we get from the Upanishads, which is not found in the philosophies of the world outside, is that whatever you experience, whatever is experienceable is an object. Take this equation. What is an experience? How do you define an experience? Anubhav. Consciousness plus an object is experience. C plus O is equal to E, suppose. Consciousness plus an object is experience. That means whatever we can experience is labeled an object. In Sanskrit, Vishaya or Jada. In Bengali also Jada. That which is an object to consciousness. The same Professor Chakravarti, he has a way of playing with words. He said, you know what is an object, Swami? An object is anything that objects to your consciousness. Which means, think of yourself as awareness, light, awareness, consciousness. And then it runs up against color, sound, touch, taste, smell. And you get experience. I see, I hear, I smell, I taste, I touch. Whatever we experience is an object. So first you have defined an object. Anything that you can experience, anything that comes in your consciousness is an object. Alright, so what? Now take one step more. This body is also an object. Because I see it, I hear it, I can hear it. If a tummy is rumbling, I can touch it, I can smell it, I can taste it. Every sense organ objectifies this body. And therefore, one result we have is, I am not the body, I am consciousness, the body too is an object. It's an extremely sophisticated biological machine, but an object nevertheless. something that I am aware of. So till now, I used to think body means, who am I? This one. What is this? It is I. But now I am saying, I am that which is aware of the body. Yes, I am embodied. I am in this body, I am embodied, but I am aware of the body. I am not literally the body. I am not literally this biological machine. I am aware of it. It is an object to me. Just like this is an object, this body is also an object. So what? So what? Then, one of the sadhus in Himalayas will speak in homely Hindi, but they will put it, such deep, profound wisdom is there. He says, Jo cheez jahan ki hai Mahatma ji, usko wahi rehne do. Keep things where they belong. Very, something our mother might teach us, keep things where they belong. But what it means is, what belongs to the body is in the body, don't take it upon yourself. Go back to Buddha, old age, wrinkles are coming. Where are they coming? Is body wrinkled, is the skin wrinkled, or is consciousness wrinkled? You laugh, what do you mean consciousness wrinkled? Skin is wrinkled. Alright. This is in Hindi they say vastusthiti in Sanskrit. This is the statement of the case. What is the case? The case is that the skin is wrinkled. The body is tired. Good. The tiredness is in the body. The wrinkled skin is in the skin. Not in you, the consciousness. I am aware of it. It's an object. These are properties of that object. Keep things where they belong. Don't take it upon yourself. Don't say, we're getting old, I am getting old. No, body is getting old. I am not as energetic as I used to be. No, the prana does not have that much energy which it used to have. So, when we keep things where they belong, one gets a psychological gap between yourself and that object. It is not me, it is not mine. I am aware of it. Just like the light illumines everything, but the light is not attached, sticking to anything. It just reveals. I am consciousness and I am revealing it. See, this is a subtle way of looking at something that's already a fact. It's a statement of truth. It's a statement of fact. We're not avoiding anything. We're not running away from anything. In fact, we're describing reality more precisely. It's a fact. Even a pain, a flash of pain, that is also an object. The sensation of pain. If you are aware of it, then it's an object. And it is not you. You are aware of it. It does not have anything to do with you. It's in the body. It's a tickling of the nerves. And you are aware of it. What does that do? Then, like Sri Ramakrishna, you will say, yes, it hurts. But also, I am fine. I am fine. One of the senior presidents of our order, disciple of Sri Ramakrishna, Swami Shivanandaji, whole night he was suffering from asthma, and they had put him pillows, making him sit. Next day in the morning, the monks went and bowed down to him. They had heard that last whole night this old Swamiji suffered. So somebody asked in Bengali that, Kemon achen Maharaj, how are you? He said, fine, I'm fine. They were puzzled. But we heard whole night you suffered from asthma. Then as if he's surprised, he says, oh, the body, not fine at all. Sorry, this actually happens. As we get into this mode of thinking, it's an object. It has to be dealt with. Problems have to be faced and dealt with. But it is not me. Amitikachi. I am fine. This attitude will begin to come. Then the psychological suffering, that second arrow, will become much less. Moving forward, same principle. Whatever you experience is an object. More important than the body is the mind. Our thoughts, our feelings, emotions, our memories, our reactions to the world, that's the mind. Our intellect, our understanding, our concepts, our story about ourselves. All of that is the mind. But can we experience the mind? Of course. That's what's called introspection. When we look inside, I see, I consider my thoughts, I am aware of my feelings. Now, we get an amazing insight that if you are aware of your feelings, then the feelings, your ideas and thoughts, they are objects. If they are objects, then you have to be different from the object. You are the consciousness to which this object is revealed. You are the subject, it is the object. The subject and object are never the same. Consciousness and its object is never the same. And therefore the thoughts, feelings, emotions in the mind, memories in the mind, they are also objects. And I am the awareness free of those objects. Depression. Not feeling good. Well, the depression is in the mind. I am aware of it. Therefore I am not depressed. Look at the cheekiness of this approach. Why do you say you are depressed? Because I feel depressed. And this path, this approach is telling us, if you feel depressed, then depression is an object. It's clearly an object. It is something in the mind. Keep things where they belong. If it belongs in the mind, keep it in the mind. You are the witness of the mind. You are the consciousness to which the mind is revealed. Just as the body is a physical object, the mind is called a subtle object. In Sanskrit, sukshma. But nevertheless, the point is, it's an object. Very sophisticated object, an extraordinary machinery, the psychological machinery of the mind, but you are not the mind. Why not? Because you are aware of the mind. Just as you are aware of this, I am aware of this bottle. I am aware of this bottle doesn't make me a bottle. I am the one consciousness aware of the bottle. It's an object. Similarly, the mind is an object too. And the contents of the mind, they let them remain in the mind. Let them be objects also. Don't take them upon yourself. Happy, mind is happy. Miserable, mind is miserable. And the amazing thing is, the moment we create this gap between ourselves and the mind also settles down. The mind also becomes much calmer, much more easier to handle. It's when we catch hold of the mind as I, me, mine, and then the mind becomes recalcitrant. Very difficult to handle. That story, I am very fond of it. Somebody goes to the Himalayas, to a sadhu. Mahatma ji, मैं बहुत दुखी हूँ, I am very miserable. And the monk says, आप अपने दुख को अनुभव करते हैं? Do you feel your misery? And this person says, yes, I feel it. That's why I've come to you. If you feel your misery, if you're aware of your misery, then the misery is an object. आप दुख के दृष्टा हैं, आप दुखी नहीं हैं. You are the witness, you are the experiencer of the misery. That makes you the witness of the misery, the consciousness to which the misery is revealed. Misery is in the mind, you are the witness of it, you are the seer of the misery of the mind. You are not miserable. This person thought in that way and thought, that works. That's very interesting. And he comes back and he says, here's the catch. He says, I am very peaceful now. Mahatma ji, ab main bahut shant hu. And the monk immediately scolded him. He says that, nahi, aap shant nahi hai. Aap man ki shanti ki drashta hai. You are the witness of the peace in your mind. See, the moment mind is peaceful and you think, very nice. I've learned something very nice. You're trapped again. The same mind will become restless within 2 minutes. Now if you say, I am the witness of the restless mind, I am the witness of the peaceful mind, then what is my nature? My nature is that I am consciousness. That's clear. And that consciousness is being the witness of the restlessness and the peace of the mind. Its very nature is peace. It's the peace, in the language of the Bible, the peace that passeth understanding. The peace that is beyond the mind. The peace that is not subject to the ups and downs of the mind. Your very nature, even when the mind is restless, you can honestly claim, I am fine, my mind is restless. And the mind is restless. So this is this amazing insight you get. Keep things where they belong. And you are the consciousness, and everything else that we experience is an object. And this is the algorithm, if you put it that way, behind the method called Drik Drishya Viveka. The discernment of the seer and the seen, the separation of consciousness from the object. And this is all done in the intellect, in the mind, in the intellect, which too is an object. The intellect, it's machinery. People ask, but aren't you using the mind to go beyond the mind? Yes, there's no problem. Why? See, it's like this. If I say, I am happy, what is saying I am happy? Tongue is saying it, the voice box and the lungs and the whole vocal apparatus is saying I am happy. But is the tongue happy or is the mind happy? Happiness is in the mind. The mind cannot speak directly. The mind uses the tongue to speak. Similarly, in this intellectual approach, this analytical approach, the job of the intellect is to do this analysis. But it refers to you, the consciousness. So you are using the intellect to do this analysis. Doesn't mean that the intellect has no ability to take you beyond the mind. No, you are the witness of the mind. You are already the witness of the mind. So this ever the witness, never an object, this is the result that we get from this investigation, self-inquiry. And it works. You can try it out. I was giving a talk at the University of North Dakota once, and one little boy sitting in the audience, many people had come, he was pinching himself. Somebody asked, "What are you doing?" And he said, "I'm seeing if the Swami is right." That it hurts, but is the hurt an object? Be careful, don't try it in a major surgery. That, until we go to Sri Ramakrishna's level, don't try that. There is a funny story, probably apocryphal, but in our order there is a story. Some monk who had read all this, then operation came, and the doctor said, "I'm going to do an incision. Should I put local anesthesia?" And the monk said, "I am consciousness, the pain is an object. Cut here, start the operation." Doctor said, "Are you sure it's going to hurt?" He said, "Yes, go ahead, I am the witness consciousness." The moment the knife cut the skin, he said, Stop. What happened?" He said, "Put anesthesia." "Why? You are consciousness." He said, "No." He says, "वो किताब की बात साला किताब में रह गया." All the theoretical stuff is in the book. You put anesthesia first. So it is not that easy. It takes a lot of focus, attention. First of all, clarity that I am really conscious. Are you convinced about it? Just yesterday I read a remarkable line from Swami Vivekananda. Swami Vivekananda's disciple, an American lady, Mrs. Waldo, she had written it down in a diary, and another Swami, Sarvapriyananda later, he copied it down in the diary. Swami Vivekananda said, what is true knowledge, true jnana? He says, we must separate ourselves utterly from all matter and from all belief in the reality of matter. Okay, two things. We must separate ourselves utterly from all matter. What is matter? In our language, object. How do you do that separation? We already know. If it comes to me, if I experience it, it's an object. It is not me. I am the experiencer. I am consciousness. This is an object. What Swami Vivekananda calls matter. In that case, body is also matter. Object. Mind is also matter. Object. And I am the witness of the body-mind. But the second part is very interesting. Separate ourselves from all belief in the reality of matter. This is where Advaita becomes, this is where path of knowledge becomes non-dual. See, till now it is duality. Vivekananda's name, what Professor Chakravarti said, how strange, he is a teacher of non-duality. His name is separation. Should have oneness. Viveka. Now Vivekananda says, but the nature of this object, is it as it appears to be, an independent, external, existing reality? Or is it something else? What is the nature of this object? What is our general idea? It's a material reality. This is wood, it exists solidly, and this is water, it exists in very wet substance separately from me. So, is it actually so or not? That conference I told you about recently, I had an interesting conversation with many of the people there. One of them is Google's head of quantum computing. So he told me an interesting conversation he had with none other than Sir Roger Penrose. He said to Sir Roger Penrose, ultimately Sir Roger, everything has to be grounded in matter. He means all code has to be written down in a material form, isn't it? So matter is the basis, foundation for all reality. And Sir Roger Penrose, no less than Sir Roger Penrose, he says, but I don't know what matter is. He says, I am uncomfortable being called a materialist because I do not understand matter. Now who's saying this? Not me. Our world's leading expert on matter, Sir Roger Penrose. Professor Galen Strawson, in a half humorous, cheeky piece in the New York Times, he wrote an article called The Hard Problem of Matter. The hard problem of consciousness. He says there is no hard problem of consciousness. We have convinced ourselves that the brain produces consciousness, and now we cannot explain how the brain is producing consciousness, and hence hard problem of consciousness. No. He says, go the other way around. We are conscious. That's the first, most obvious, that is pre all facts. Before all facts, we are conscious. And then, to consciousness, there are facts. So, I am conscious, and to me, matter is presented. So, the real question is, what is matter? I am consciousness, and to me, the matter appears. So, what is this matter? And then Galen Strawson says, as physics investigates matter, it is disappearing before our very eyes. It is becoming more and more of a mystery. We have now gone down to superstrings, I don't know what. But anyway, so matter itself, Swami Vivekananda says, we must separate ourselves from any belief in the reality of matter. I just came across a new book, Matter, the Magnificent Illusion, Guido Tonini. I haven't read it yet, but it sounds very promising, so I'll look into it. Let me share an argument which I liked, and I'll stop after that. About matter, this universe. Our idea that it exists independently of consciousness. An argument here, that it is not true. This argument I am borrowing not from Vedanta, it's a very Vedanta-friendly argument, borrowed from a thinker who is making his mark these days, Bernardo Castro. So, from his book on analytic idealism, here is the argument. He says, he wants to expose the utter ridiculousness of the materialist position. 4 steps to this argument. What are the 4 steps? Step 1. I am conscious. I am conscious. Everyone agrees there. Individually that we are conscious, it is most obvious to us that I am conscious. Materialist, idealist, anybody, common man on the street, everybody will agree, I am conscious. Step 1. Everybody is agreed here. Step 2. Little more controversial. Others are also conscious. That they are not zombies. There is consciousness in every one of them. How can you argue this? Because I don't have direct experience of your consciousness. In philosophy, this is called the problem of other minds. How can I argue this? Well, on one good reason is there. On one good ground. The grounds of, it has happened once already. Consciousness is, there's one clear instance of it. Which is that one? Me. I know I am conscious. So there are others like me. Maybe consciousness is replicated in them. Not, the lights are not out, lights are on. There is somebody home in those bodies. They are not zombies. So, second step, others are also conscious. Third step, what we experience in consciousness, these objects, they are independently existing entities called matter. Third step, whatever we experience in consciousness, these things, these are independently existing entities called matter, independently outside consciousness, beyond. That's what we think about in common sense. But there is no strictly logical way of verifying this. And this is called what Kant called the standing scandal of philosophy. That we cannot logically establish the independent nature of this world. Because whatever you do, you have to go do it through consciousness. But materialism assumes material nature, matter, exists apart from consciousness. This third step is very controversial. Logically speaking, you can say, stop, I will not allow this. And the fourth stage is even worse, the conclusion of the argument. These so-called highly doubtful, independently existing material entities, they are the ones generating the absolutely certain consciousness. You, the consciousness which you are utterly certain about, this matter which you are not certain about, that's the one which is generating you. So this is, he says, it's an utterly atrocious argument, if you put it that way. What seems common sense to us, if you put it that way, it seems like a ridiculous argument. I am conscious, absolutely sure, step 1. Others are conscious, not so sure, but okay. Outside consciousness exists a universe. You can never verify that. And that so-called material universe which exists outside consciousness is generating consciousness and all our conscious experiences. That's a very indefensible position on logical grounds. Alright, summing it up, we learned that we are consciousness, not body, not mind. On what grounds? Clearly they are objects. Keep things where they belong. जो चीज जहाँ की है उसको वहीं रहने दो. Immediately it gives us relief from suffering. It gives us a great freedom. I am awareness. If I am not the body, when the body is born, I am not born with the body. If I am not the body, when the body dies, I don't die with the body. If I am not the mind, then I don't go through ups and downs and the mind goes through ups and downs. I am awareness. I am not denying that I have a body. I am not denying that I have a mind. Be realistic. Be absolutely honest. Yes, here is the mind. Here is the body. One of those texts, Dashtavakra sings, the universe along with this body and mind is presented to me at once. So either I am all of it or I am none of it. Our problem is we identify with a set of objects, body mind, one body mind. This much is I, the rest is not I. And then samsara starts. But the Advaitic way would be the whole universe appears to be in this consciousness. So I am all of it or none of it, I am just consciousness. In either case, you are not the body mind. So this is the way to subjective freedom, to dealing with the second arrow, what Buddha said, and in a highly philosophical way, in a highly rigorously logical way. And there are endless extensions of this. I was talking about the whole field of Advaita Vedanta, non-dual Vedanta. There are ethical dimensions to this. So since if we are all consciousness, are we all one consciousness? Then we are all one. The way I take care of myself, I should take care of you also. The grounding of ethics on the basis of one consciousness. So there are many implications. Maybe we can take it up in the question answer session. I will draw this to a close, do a peace chant, and then maybe we can take up some questions if there are any questions. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Sri Ramakrishna. Alright, thank you for the patient hearing. And how do we do this? Question answers? I'll sit down here. Yes. Don't be shy. Just go ahead and ask a question.
Online questions.
Yes, online questions also. So please raise your hand and ask a question. Is there somebody? There are people who will go to you with the microphone. Tell us your name and ask a question. I think people are shy. Yes, subjective freedom. Now, how are we trapped? To know the nature of our freedom, we must know the nature of our bondage. So suppose I am this body, and somehow I am inextricably mixed up with the body. In that case, the history of the body and the destiny of the body is my destiny. It will become old, it will become sick, it will die. In that case, I have to say, if I am the body, I will become old, I will become sick, I will die. It gets disease, and I am sick. Whereas, if you see that I am awareness and the body is an object like this. Yes, I see the body's aging. I see the body's sickness, but I also see I am not the body. I am not literally the body. Just as I am not literally these objects. Similarly, in that case, I can honestly claim to myself, I am the witness of this. I am consciousness. See, suppose I say, the body is, I am so obese, I have to lose weight. But now I will say, I am consciousness who is aware of the obesity of the body. Yes, the body has to lose weight, and I will take care of it. But it's not me. You see the psychological effect that has. If I am consciousness, then the birth is not my birth, body is birth. Death is not my death, body is death. What is the biggest fear in human life? Death. One may say, no, I don't think about death. Precisely, we don't think about it. And there is this book, The Denial of Death, Ernst Becker. He got a Pulitzer Prize for it. He's a Freudian psychoanalyst. He says, the greatest fear in the life of a human being, we are the only sentient beings who is fully aware of our death. Animals generally don't think about death until they come to it. But we are aware of our death. And it's the greatest fear. And it cannot be that it does not leave a great trauma on us. It does. And that, I don't agree fully with him, but his analysis is all our big attempts in human life, the great projects in human life, he calls them immortality projects. Most obvious, having children. But also, writing a book, founding a business, conquering an empire, establishing a foundation. These are all, he says, immortality projects. These are our doomed projects to overcome our most obvious mortality. But Vedanta says, why are you suffering from this? Because you have no doubt that you are the body. So Vedanta says, it makes a division between you and the body. Viveka, you separate. You separate, I am not the body is not me. Why? No use saying it, with obstinately. You must say why I am not much convinced about it. Because the body is an object. This is an object, this is an object. I am not this bottle, I am not this flower. Why am I saying I am this body? The next step was keep things where they belong. Where is the wrinkles? In the skin. Where is the disease? In the body. Where are the grey hairs and no hairs and toothless? In the body. I am the same consciousness which saw the body in its youth and in its vigor. I am the same consciousness which experienced the body when it was a child's body. So, I am fine, I am the same one. Like Swami Shivananda, you can say, I am fine. Oh, you mean the body? And the body is not good at all. So this is a freedom. Freedom from what? From the body and its sufferings, even while using the body. The Kathopanishad describes the body as a chariot. It is Uber, Ola. It's not your vehicle. You are not it, and it's not even your vehicle. It's a vehicle which has been called up. And you will sit in it will drive you around, take you to your destination, drop you off. That is physical death. Not your death. Uber will go. So this is freedom. It's a subjective freedom. It sounds theoretical, actually it is not. It's very direct. One can immediately practice it and feel the benefit. Like that little boy who was pinching himself and saying, can I distance myself from the pain? You can. But I'm not overstating or overselling the case, but it's considered, especially with the mind. Our mind makes us suffer the most. In the Bhagavad Gita, our director Sahib quoted the verse, mind is your best friend, mind is your worst enemy. The mind with which you identify yourself is your worst enemy. The mind with which you disidentify itself, it becomes very well behaved and best friend.
Thank you so much.
Somebody else? Yes. Tell us your name and
My name is Megha. I have a very simple.
Are you a faculty?
Yes, part of the faculty. My question is, I understand the suffering 20%, all that part. But doesn't that take away the happiness also? If I say consciousness is different from object, so happiness is also not mine.
Yes. But
Then
notice.
what's the point of that?
Exactly. What's the point? But notice, there is a natural happiness to consciousness. So, just as the pain is actually not taken away by disidentifying with it, it's still there. And you are experiencing every bit of it, and yet it does not shake you, because you are not it. You treat it as an object. The pleasure and the happiness also will be there. You will experience every bit of it. At the same time, you will not be attached to it. It will not imprison you. Further, deeper, I did not touch upon that aspect. There is an aspect called Ananda. This consciousness itself is of the nature of freedom, and that freedom is of the nature of happiness. There will be a spontaneous peace and happiness when you identify yourself with your consciousness nature. that happiness will not be shakeable by the happenings of the world or the body or the mind. Even in the midst of the storm, physical illness or some mental anxiety, you will note always that there is a core of a haven, a refuge from the storms of the world, which is your nature as awareness, as light. You see? So that's a higher kind of happiness. It's not the happiness of excitement or sensory pleasure. Notice, those also will not go away. They will still be there. You will experience them as much as you will experience the pain. But because of your witness attitude, you will not be trapped by them.
Just a follow-up question.
Yes.
With that, would people pursue passions and all? Would they go on to do great things?
I don't know. But one notices, the best answer is if you look at the lives of people you consider enlightened. Were they great conquerors? Unlikely. Were they, making millions of dollars on the stock exchange after MBA from IIM Calcutta? Unlikely. They might go out and start taking care of abandoned kids, like Vinayak did. So that might be true. But it does not mean that they become inactive. It does not mean that they become frozen. In fact, they become a blessing to society, to themselves and to society. So, notice also, these teachings were given in the Gita in the context of a battlefield. The worst kind of human activity is war, is killing. And if it can be practiced in the middle of that, then you should be able to practice it at home, not just in the ashram. At home, in the corporate office, in your academic block there, everywhere you should be able to practice it. So it's not that it will make you inactive, passive, unresponsive. That's not the evidence you see when you look around the lives. Look at the lives of who contributed more than these. You see, Vivekananda, Mahatma Gandhi, Thakur, Rishi Aurobindo. So that's my answer. And one good way of doing it is thinking, how will I be if I become like that? You notice you'll still be engaged. Sri Ramakrishna, in his humorous way, he says, a clerk was sent to jail for some reason when he was released. In Bengali he says, Kerani jail theke beriye se ki dhei kore nachbe naki keranigiri korbe. So once you're released from the jail, your life will continue. But it will be, internally the difference will be tremendous. And this is just the ABCD of this path. There are many further developments. Yes.
I'm sorry, there is no other question. I have one more follow-up.
No, that's good.
I understand all these people did great things, and that's why compared to business people or somebody who created an empire, these are like there for centuries and generations worship.
Sure.
But didn't they have a set of followers who were doing the other work, and hence they could do the great work? Mm-hmm. So if everybody realizes the consciousness, how would the society have?
Not necessarily. First of all, everybody is not going to realize it. Let me pursue it out of my own sheer enlightened self-interest. There will be any number of supply of people who said, okay, you keep your consciousness, I am going to Wall Street, to New York to make there is a saying, if you win the rat race, you are still a rat. But still, there will be any number of people willing to run the rat race, and there is nothing wrong in that. Don't stop them. Gita also says that. Do not create confusion in the intentions of people who are, passionately committed to something in the world. You may not consider it very enlightened, but don't stop them because you will harm them that way. So we develop. I meet so many such youngsters, Indians, in New York. Recently I met this young man, very dynamic, very successful. He works for one of the top multinationals. He said, all my life, I come from a small town in Uttar Pradesh. All my life, my parents worked very hard to put me through engineering college, through management studies, send me abroad, finish my studies here. Now, every month I earn more than my father had a middle class job only. So he said, every month I earn more than my father has earned in his whole life. And now I think, what next? And I asked my parents, And my parents are simple, good folk. They say, हमको तो यही तक पता था, इसके आगे भी कुछ होता है, सोचा ही नहीं. Good folk, they worked hard, they sent their only son abroad with a tremendous sacrifice they put in. Now what next? What comes next? He said, we have not thought about it. Is there a next? I thought this is the goal of life. We will raise our child to be successful. This is how we define success in 21st century India. You have attained it. Now I never thought you would ask this question, what comes next? Now, what is the consequence of this? He found a lot of fulfillment in the writings of Vivekananda and in Vedanta, this young man. And he is not one, there are many such. And he continues to do what he is doing. And he's quite successful, actually he's more than successful. He's become more successful in his team, in his particular career track. And his interests are widened. He writes a blog now. He's learned, he goes mountaineering and sailing. And his eyes are firmly fixed that self-realization is my goal. Let me put it this way. Mahatma Gandhi, at one place he writes that when people ask me, who am I? People say that I am a freedom fighter. People say I am a politician. People say I am a social worker, social reformer in those days. And it's true, he was all of them. An enormously busy man. You can't imagine how busy he was. I've seen in our library one almirah of complete works of Mahatma Gandhi. You know, it's 100 volumes, including all letters. So this man who wrote 100 volumes worth of writing and was the father of the nation, was the leading politician of India, was one of the leading social reformers of India. He says, if you ask me, who are you? If you ask me, I will say, I am a simple man in search of God. So I am a simple man in search of God. Now, that doesn't prevent him from doing all those other things. In fact, it unites him. For him, that politics is his search of God. That social reform is his search of God. His writing is his search of God. And his daily prayer meetings is also his search of God. His harmonization of the relations between Hindus and Muslims is his search of God. He does not do anything part-time. And he does only one thing in his life. He says, I am searching for God. That is something we can all say, and we should say. We are knowingly or unknowingly. Again, quotation from Aurobindo. He says, life itself is yoga. If you do it consciously, deliberately, then you will say, I am a spiritual seeker, sadhaka, I am in search of God. If you say, no, I am not interested in any of this, he says, then you will simply call it life. But it is yoga. It is teaching you. It is slowly pushing you forward. If this was not true, then if the parents' plan was perfect, then the child would go to Wall Street, get a multinational job and say, mission accomplished. Everything is finished. Life is perfect now forever. Nobody has said this till today. And we cannot say it. Nobody can say it. And so life is pushing us forward. And if we do it consciously, then we are spiritual seekers. Yeah, it's a good question. Yes. Somebody, anybody else? Yes, please tell us your name.
Listening to this knowledge, maybe understanding it, the mind also gets trained in this language. And then when, especially at the junctures where there are choices, it might be that the mind is still avoiding pain and not meaning the life as it is circumventing through this knowledge. So how do you avoid this?
Yes, there is a new term, spiritual bypassing. Yes and no. You cannot really bypass life. In one sense, once you want to bypass problems, I said, okay, I would say, knock yourself out. The problems will not leave you. Rather, all the answers are here actually. Vivekananda in Banaras is traveling, before he became well known as Vivekananda, he is traveling in Banaras in the Durga Badi there, big monkeys, even now the monkeys, the descendants of those monkeys are there. So they started following him, as they do. If you today you go, they will try to snatch things from you. He started running, the monkeys started chasing him. And then saw an old monk from a distance, he saw this and he shouted to Vivekananda, Samna karo. So Vivekananda stood and turned around face, and then the monkey stopped and quite quietly retreated. And he says, it taught me a great lesson, which he taught people in the US and also back in India. He used to say, face the brute. So problems in life, in Vedanta we believe these are generated by our past karma. So if it's generated by our past karma, you really can't run away from it. If you run away from one set of circumstances to another set of circumstances, change your job or your spouse or even give up worldly life and become a monk, you will find something is following you. It could be health problems. If it's relationship problem you had in the family, it will be relationship problems in the ashram then with other members. So it will follow you. You have to face it at one point or the other. And it's much better to face it from a spiritual perspective. From a perspective of devotion, from a perspective of knowledge, from a perspective of meditation, from a perspective of service. The 4 yogas, famous yogas of Vivekananda, Raja Yoga, Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga. So, as I said, doctors have a term, self-limiting condition. So, spiritual avoidance of problems, self-limiting condition, because the problems will at one point become so big you can't avoid it. And therefore, it's better to have a spiritual grounding and face those problems.
So?
Yes, please. And then we'll come to you. You. Tell us your name.
My name is Vishesh. I'm a student. So, my question is, firstly, I'd like to ask a clarification. So, what you're suggesting is that when we have pain, the 20%, 80% pain that you were suggesting, 80% of the pain is psychological resistance to the pain.
Yeah.
And what you're suggesting is that once we label that pain, that suffering, as resistance to suffering, we can separate ourselves away from it. And by doing that, by creating that psychological distance, we won't be feeling that psychological pain. We
Yes.
would just have the label pain.
Yes.
And we would have the physical pain continues. So, my question is that when you say that problems are generated from past life, what exactly is the karma that you are saying that the problems are generated?
Yeah. So it's a belief, but it's a belief that's common to all Indian traditions, except perhaps the materialist, the Charvaka. So all Hindu systems of thought, various schools of Hinduism, all the diversity, all Buddhist systems, all Jaina and Sikh systems, they have certain common assumptions, let us say. One of them is this karma. What is this karma? Vivekananda puts it very succinctly. Good, good, bad, bad, and none escape the law. Whoever wears a form, wears the chain too. So if you have a body, the embodiment, we have a life, and the major events in this life are determined by what we think of as past karma. You might say it's an assumption. It's an assumption, but on good grounds. On what grounds? Grounds of causality. Every effect has a cause. Every action produces some consequences. So that is basically karma. And that produces the effects of our life. If you want an explanation, why are these things happening to me? So our general answer in our culture is your karma. And that's based on the understanding of causality. And let me complete that poem, that stanza, that will connect it with today's talk. So if past actions are producing the results now, what good is all this then? Spirituality, this whole setup. Vivekananda, the next line he says, but far beyond name and form is Atman ever free. Atman means consciousness here. Consciousness ever free. No, thou art that, sannyasi bold, say Om Tat Sat Om. This is a paragraph from his famous poem, Song of the Sannyasi. So know that you are that consciousness. And that sets you free. That knowledge itself sets you free.
So I had another question. So coming back to the labeling, you said that we are consciousness, the mind is something, and then we have the body.
The mind is an object, body is also an object.
Right. So, for example, when I say that I am getting a thought, the thought is also an object. The thought
Absolutely.
is something that self-generates, that the mind generates.
Yeah.
So the thought itself is not a part of me, right? So that is also an object.
Yes.
So any thought that is coming up or any action that I take is kind of generated by all of my past experiences and actions, that is my karma.
And the body mind, yes.
And the body mind. So in some sense, what am I in control of when you say I am conscious?
Don't go there.
Let's go there.
Let's go there, Mrs. Please, let's go there. Yeah, that's the area of free will. Very interesting area. And you have touched upon something. Right now there's a lot of debate going on. It's an ancient question. How much free will do we have? So, right now there is a huge controversy now. There's a book, Determined, by Richard Sapolsky. So where he says, on the basis of all possible neuroscientific evidence we have, free will is basically an illusion. We really are not in control of anything. And yet life goes on. And our illusion of free will also goes on, that we are in charge of these things. So here is the thing. What is the Vedanta's position on free will? Vedanta says ultimately there is no free will. So there is freedom. What is freedom? That very nature of consciousness is freedom. You are free of this show. If you are watching a movie, it is not an interactive movie, then you have really no control over the movie. So is it an interactive movie? Even assuming it's a movie, it could be an interactive movie, it could be simply an ordinary movie which you'll have to watch from beginning to end. The director has already programmed it. So these are matters of debate. I can quote a verse from the Gita, the one teaching which Krishna has given 3 times in the Bhagavad Gita. One of those verses is, Prakrityeva karmani kriyamanani sarvasha yapashyati tathatmanam akattaram sapashyati. Nature alone is doing everything in this body mind. The one who watches, who sees this, realizes that that one is not a doer. That self is not a doer, not an agent of action. This is something tremendous. This is completely counterintuitive. One thing we know for certain, I am the doer of these actions. And I am the enjoyer or sufferer of the results of these actions. That's what we think about ourselves. But you are right, if you follow this logic to its end, if you ruthlessly follow it, then you will just be consciousness, watching this display. So that is one position. That's not the Advaitic position, that's the Sankhyan position. The Sankhyan position is everything in this universe, including this body, including the mind, is being done by Prakriti, nature. And you are consciousness, Purusha. Right now, however, we are this amalgamation, a strange amalgamation of Prakriti and Purusha, nature and consciousness, this body and mind. That's what we are. Yes.
Swami, this is a beautiful discussion and I had to share with you my experience. And I don't know if this is the right answer, but it's the right context because Swamiji is sitting and he can correct me. Is there free will? You asked that question. And you asked about action. Now, just go into your own psyche. Is any action of yours done by free will? No. It's either some judgment because of memory, some knowledge, some past experiences. Your actions are never unbiased. They're always biased with some aspect of what Swamiji called objects which are flowing through your consciousness. Isn't it? So the only time I guess we exercise free will is when we shore ourselves from these prejudices, tendencies, knowledge, everything. That's probably it, but I don't know. And there is a word called Ichha Shakti. One doesn't come into play, but my own feeling at this age after going through is that every action of mine in any sphere of life is a reaction. I'm never acting. If I actually am honest with me, it's a reaction.
Some of you are aware, some of you may not be aware. I'm sure he will be annoyed by my saying this. But his direct connection with Mahatma Gandhi, he is Mahatma Gandhi's great grandson. You're all aware of that? Some of you are not aware of it. Even he did not know. He's Mahatma Gandhi's great grandson. Yes. They will give some others the gentleman at the back. Online will come back. Oh, you want to tell it? Please tell us your name and ask the question.
Myself, Swami Shah. I have two questions. My first question is a bit abstract. Is that podium you are speaking in front about any matter, is it also a part of consciousness?
Is it a part of consciousness? That is the question. Advaitic answer is very clear. It is an appearance of consciousness. Consciousness is appearing to itself in the form of that podium. So that's the real nature of that podium. I mean, let's take an example. In our own dreams, suppose you're dreaming. Suppose this is a dream. And in that case, that podium will be what? It's not made of wood. Actually, it will be made of your mind. The mind is projecting that podium. But if you investigate it, you will not find mind. You will find wood there. But when you wake up, you will realize everything and everybody I saw in my dream, they were all me. This mind projecting itself. So that's an example. But what Advaita Vedanta holds is, just like that, whatever appears in consciousness to consciousness is actually its real nature, nothing but consciousness. That's why I think that it's interesting that we're coming close, we are not yet there, but when Roger Penrose says that I don't understand matter, and if you know his work, he holds that the two final problems we are faced with in science now. One is, how do you integrate the very large and the very small in physics? I think it's relativity, general relativity with quantum theory, how do you integrate that? And on the other hand, the hard problem of consciousness. What exactly is consciousness? And his idea is the two are related. That is where you find matter and consciousness at its most fundamental understanding, instead of being utterly different areas, as we would expect. No, they begin to be the same area. So, your answer to your question is, the podium is consciousness appearing to itself with the name, form and function of a podium.
Thank you. My second question is, let us say there is no free will, but is there vast will or will created out of the various actions already done? If so, look at. If so, if there is a will, that means we are having a destiny. So today that I am in front of you is a destiny. It is not neither my will or anybody's will. But if that be so, is there any beginning that this destiny, if it is the action, reactions or the consequences of certain actions, then there is a limit. So what is the difference? Where that limit ends and my action starts, which is a fresh action, will create further consequences.
Your question is, where did it all start? The beginning of it. Yes. First of all, let me be clear. That's why I told what's your name? Vishesh, not to go there. But Sri Krishna ji said we must enter into it. It's dangerous territory. First of all, let's back up a little and take refuge in common sense. As far as common sense is concerned, there is free will. Our practical sense is concerned, there is free will. According to the law, there is free will. Otherwise, law doesn't work. It's only when I have committed crimes means done something out of free will. Reduced capacity is an argument in law that this person is not acting out of free will. So, free will, whether it is to punish somebody or give a gallantry award to somebody, it is done out of free will. So law will hold that as free will, common sense will hold that as free will. Your entire marketing faculty here, we used to have a subject, I don't know if they call it that, we used to call it marketing and distribution. Marketing and advertisement. The people who took it we would call madmen. So sales and distribution, they were called sad men. So this whole marketing and advertisement faculty, what are they trying to influence? They're trying to influence free choice, free will of the consumer. It's assumed there is some freedom of choice. That's all. That's how advertisement works. Then your whole political process, democracy, it depends on free choice of your candidates. So all of this depends on free will. And so practically free will, it must be admitted. Now, theoretically, in its ultimate analysis, is free will a coherent concept or is it logically indefensible on some ground? That's what we're talking about. Practically, even if you're after this you're convinced there is no free will, you'll still have to use free will. Go and eat and do whatever you want. So that is one. Second, where did it all start? The answer in Vedanta is very interesting. They will say, it is beginningless, it didn't start. We have one set of consequences, before that there was another cause. Those causes are the effect of earlier cause. You see, what is the beginning of the series? It's a beginningless series. Why? Because I said the root of free will, this idea of free will, it's rooted in ignorance, not knowing our real nature. And whatever is rooted in ignorance is beginningless. You can't trace back its beginning. I didn't understand this concept at first until a very wonderful scholar, Professor J. N. Manthi, said it's a very simple concept, Swami. He said, any ignorance is beginningless. What does it mean? He asked us in a class here in Kolkata, Institute of Culture. He asked, I still remember. He said, do you know German? Most of us, we did not. He said, no, we don't know German. Since when so you're ignorant of German? Yes. Since when did your ignorance of German start? I said, since our birth. Oh, so before your birth you knew German? He said, no. Ignorance of German is beginningless. But it will come to an end when you start taking lessons in Max Muller power or something, then your ignorance will come to an end. Knowledge ends ignorance. But ignorance itself is beginningless. And the products of ignorance, the causality chain, free will, that also you will find is beginningless.
Thank you.
Run out of time.
Can you take the online question?
Online question.
Namaskar, Swamiji.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Where is the question?
Sorry.
Namaskar, Swamiji.
Oh, okay.
Sorry everyone, due to time constraint, we will take one last question.
We'll take one last question.
And the online question.
Online question, one online question. ঠিক আছে এখন থাক তাহলে we will take it. Let's take the online question first.
Yeah. I think Rajashri Roy Chaudhary, you had a question. Would you like to?
You can read it out.
Yeah. This question is that given that we as conscious beings can probe the material world, is it right to thus say that the material world is not a separate material thing, but an appearance in consciousness alone?
In fact, that is the argument. Absolutely right. If you say, as conscious beings, we are probing the material world, immediately the question will arise. This is in philosophy, it is called the problem of interactionism in dualism. If the material world and consciousness are utterly different realities, there would be no way of interacting. We often give the example of light. I also give the example of light, how light illumines everything. But actually, this example is very limited. This is a material light. This is a material object. A material light can illumine a material object. Try to use this material light to illumine your thoughts. You can't. Two utterly different entities cannot interact. The very fact you are saying we as conscious beings are investigating a material reality, that means the material reality cannot be utterly different from consciousness. The materialist will say, of course, your consciousness is also produced by a material reality brain. But we as Advaitins, we are reversing that argument, that consciousness is the first thing which is obvious to us, and matter is presented in consciousness. Those who are philosophically trained, you will see, this question reduces into two issues. One is, epistemologically consciousness is first, nobody doubts it. Now the real question is, ontologically which is prior? Is matter prior or is mind, or say let's say consciousness prior? In every philosophy class, the first joke, bad joke, they will always tell you is, what is matter? Never mind. What is mind? No matter. Okay. Any other questions there?
No, nothing. Anybody online? You can unmute yourself.
Okay. This lady
You
understands.
can go to the.
We'll come to you. She started asking, so we can finish this.
নমস্কার স্বামীজি, আমি বিভাবরী। আমি
it is Skule Podai. To in this light of freedom, how can we teach just the teens about their success and failure in the light of this freedom concept?
So some stuff I didn't mention. I just went to the philosophical core of it in today's talk. But there is the stuff which I seem to criticize, the way of meditation, the way of devotion, but they are not criticism. They are the ones which make this philosophy practical. You will find a calm mind by meditation, by mindfulness, whatever technique of meditation you take up. A calm mind is conducive to freedom. A restless mind limits our freedom. One sadhu put it very nicely in Hindi, I'll translate, but the original statement is so nice. आपको लगता है संसार के चलते मन अशांत है, जबकि सच तो ये है महात्मा जी कि अशांत मन के चलते संसार है. You think because of samsara, troubles in the world, my mind is very troubled. Because of the world, my mind is troubled. And he said that the truth is, because your mind is troubled, you have samsara. The opposite. Who suffers more? Restless mind or calm mind? Restless mind suffers more. So calmness of mind is one way. You can introduce like mindfulness meditation. Moments of stillness. She'll be thinking, you don't know teens. I know, I've been teaching for the last 25 years. Then, the value of service. One realizes, suddenly there's an expansion. The moment you share, you care for others, do something for others, there's an expansion of the self. Without all this philosophy, just by action, there's an expansion. Let me tell you a story. I had a friend. Both of us, we were spiritual seekers. I wanted to become a monk. He was against that. He said, I will serve. Ultimately, he became a student of this institute. He was a PhD candidate here. And his subject, however, he said, I will not abandon the spiritual path. My subject, he says, my subject is spiritualizing work. So that's what. Against the teaching, against the advice of some of his advisors, he said, you'll never get a job, an academic job, faculty position, if you have such subjects, such a thesis. But he stuck to it. And our contention, debate was, my idea of spirituality was knowledge, meditation, devotion. This is spirituality. His idea of spirituality is selflessness in spirituality. And ultimately, he got his PhD from IIM Calcutta. He did his fellowship here, got his PhD from IIM Calcutta. And he called me the day of his first job interview. He had this job interview in Accelerate, this is long ago. And the father who took his interview, who interviewed him, said, we are giving you the job on the condition you will pursue this topic only, spiritualizing work. And he called with great excitement and he was validated. And today he is a distinguished professor. Speaking of Professor Manish Singhal, he is in Accelerate Jamshedpur. So we were classmates. Now the idea that selflessness and this one consciousness, they are actually theory and practice of the same thing. And I've come to realize he was right. Over decades of spiritual life, but selflessness is another way of expressing spirituality. These are the ways you can introduce. But you have to devise protocols how to do it. Yes.
I'm Prodipta. My question is, given the kind of age we are in today of social media and the technological advancement, how can the young minds be encouraged to explore self-knowledge and a sense of consciousness or meditation? So part of my question gets answered, I think, in your few cases.
Yes. By introducing protocols for meditation and for doing the work they are already doing, can you teach them to do it mindfully? Whether it is playing, whether it is studying. Look at Vivekananda's, his advice for concentration. Instead of meditation, he said, do whatever you are doing with the fullest possible attention. So I think we have to wrap it up. There are other programs here. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. as we draw this profoundly insightful session to a close, it is my genuine pleasure to offer a humble vote of thanks. Firstly and most importantly, our deepest gratitude goes to Swami Sarvapriyananda Ji Maharaj for the discourse on the subject matter of self-knowledge and freedom, or shall we say object matter, or whatever truly matters. Thank you so much for giving us such a lucid, logical and transformative journey into our own existence. Thank you also for throwing light on some of the crucial issues in the research methods in the study of spirituality, which as one of the collaborative bodies with the MCHB, I also work with the Management, Spirituality and Religion Division of the Academy of Management, where these issues have been explored in terms of how can we study spirituality, which is or consciousness, with the limited tools of the same sense organs with which we study the mind, study objects using the mind. So he has thrown light on a number of such aspects, as well as thrown light on humanistic management aspects which we can use in practice. Thank you for showing us about the aspect about how 20% pain is mandatory, but maybe the 80% suffering is optional. I would like to thank our director, Professor Alok Kumar Rai, for his address and for his unwavering support for the MCHV activities. Our thanks to the chairman of our board, Sri Krishna Kulkarni, who is here today with us. My thanks to the MCHV chair, Professor Nishigandha, who very unfortunately could not be here due to a personal emergency. But I understand that she has spent 2 years of tireless efforts in trying to get Swami Sarvapriyananda Maharaj Ji here with us for this talk. Thanks to Professor Nag, who has stepped in as the MCHB committee member to help out on this. Thanks to Mr. Sumanto Roy for coordinating the event. Thanks to the engineering division, the IT department, the photographers and all other support staff, without whose help this event could not have been such a success. Thank you for the very enthusiastic participation from the audience, consisting of faculty, officers, staff, and several eminent guests of the Institute. I would like to end this note here with a welcome to join us for high tea. And thank you so much once again, and very good evening to all.